Now you might be looking at this thinking, Remy, do you have the slightest clue what you're doing? The answer is no. Now what's crazy to me is all of these wires laid out behind us measure into 2,400 feet, which is insane. That's like a half a mile of wires sitting in our shop that we have to go through and organize, sort through, and get it run to its necessary location, whether it's the chassis, the engine harness. This is gonna be a long and very painful task. I'm assuming it's gonna take us probably 80-ish hours to complete. For you guys, it'll be like 15 to 20 minutes, but this should be fun. Now laid out in front of us, we have a few of the tools needed to actually terminate and start building this engine harness. In front of us, we have all new engine OEM connectors. We have coil packs, injectors, crank sensors, all of that's gonna be brand new. We have all of the fancy, expensive Haltech crimping tools to ensure that we have proper crimpage and all of that stuff. We have some DTM connectors. We have all of the Deutsch stuff. We have a brand new multimeter so we can go through, make sure when we're building this, everything has continuity and everything is working properly. One of the biggest tools we're gonna be using to ensure that we do this properly is the Haltech support. They have everything on their website down to the wiring diagram of the Nexus VCU. So we have all of the pinouts if we need to change stuff, whatever it may be. And then we also have the Honda K-Series engine. All of the pinouts for everything we need to know down to, everything. Now, step number one to building this harness is actually done on a computer. Don't even have to touch the wires because all of these wires are virtually pointless unless you assign them in the ECU. On the Haltech software that we have loaded up, I actually had to buy a computer to also build this, so add this on the expense as well. But we go through here, and this is where we start the wiring. Now, for example, for any sensors that we need to wire up on this car, we go to the sensor tab over here, and we literally just click on everything we want. So right now we have manifold pressure, exhaust manifold pressure, oil pressure, coolant pressure, air temperature, a ton of sensors like that. For example, our manifold pressure is gonna be using an AVI, which stands for analog voltage input. And then on here, you can see that it's gonna be the white and red wire. Here is our AVI strand. And then if we go into here, we're gonna find the white and red wire, which is right here. This is gonna be our manifold pressure. Hell yeah. Now our first step here is writing down every sensor connector that we are using on this entire chassis to ensure that we're not missing anything. Wait, brake switch. As we're in the middle of the wiring process here, I just got a phone call. The whole goal with this build is I'm trying to get this thing showcased at SEMA. I entered a thing called Battle of the Builders, Young Guns, trying to showcase the build I am doing. I just got the phone call from one of the judges. They accepted the first round, I think they call it. So I have a virtual call showcasing the car next week or in 2 weeks, but we have like less than 3 months to get this car running. Ideally, I think we can get this thing running in 30 days, but we gotta get back to wiring, but I'm excited. We have a pretty good chance of getting this car into SEMA. Oh, shit. What the fuck, dude? Jeez. Oh, dude,
that'll be engine harness side.
And well, here we go, guys. Our first part of our engine harness is completed. This is the ECU side that gets connected to our Nexus, and then this is gonna be our mil-spec bulkhead that's gonna go through our firewall. Today, we have to go through and get this other side connected and make sure that we pin this thing up exactly how we have this side pinned up with all of our spare wires. This is pretty badass. All right, now that we have the chassis side and the engine harness side all connected, we're gonna go through and test continuity on every single wire to ensure that everything is connected properly. This is going to be our power to, what is this? Injector power. So we're gonna stick one probe on the exposed copper down here, and then stick our probe and that's the noise we want to hear, which means that we have connection from the engine side where this is going to actually plug into our injectors and the ECU side. So we just went through, tested all 8 injectors, and all of these have continuity, which means these will work once we get these wired up. So it looks like, well, it is a huge wiring mess right now, but all of these wires are gonna get cut really short because almost all of these are ignition or injectors. All of the blue wires are injectors. So this isn't how we're gonna run it necessarily, but it'll get cut something like this and it'll just power all our injectors. So essentially we have this much unneeded wire. So obviously we're gonna wait until we get our other bulkhead ran through here before we start like cutting stuff and routing. And then all of our yellow wires, these are our ignition, which is gonna be our coil packs. So these will get run through the back end up here, something like that.
Are you gonna hide all the wires? Or
Yeah. I'm trying to make this thing as tucked as possible. It's really hard because ideally, I wish I could route stuff behind the turbo kit, but the way that the turbo kit's built, you can see how much heat. There is no space. There's 2 things I want to keep away from heat: the fuel lines and all of the wiring. So unfortunately, all of the heat is over here. So we have to try to get all of our wiring and our fuel lines all tucked in this small space with it still looking good.
The crank trigger's gonna be gray, correct? Just make sure they press all the way in.
Never underestimate how long building an engine and chassis harness is gonna take, but we've made some huge progress. Both of our mil-spec plugs are now done. All of the wires are ran through to our engine bay and our chassis. Looks like a ginormous mess. It is not. This is everything needing to power everything in our engine bay. Now this morning, I went through and ditched our stock water pump. We got rid of this huge bulky thing as it just took up so much space in the engine bay. Didn't look good, and I then switched to a K-Tune electronic water pump. It looks gorgeous. It's gonna suit every purpose that we need with it and clear up so much space. We have all of the room to run our wire harness in here now. It looks gorgeous. We got that finished up this morning. I meant to film it for you guys. I just got into the zone, did not film it as I'm in the mindset of wiring right now. All right, here we go. We have both of our engine harness looms laid out. Today is the day where we're actually gonna start terminating our engine harness. Right now, we have to get both of them connected and start figuring out how we're gonna map this, where we need to start splitting things off and whatnot. But that's the first step to getting this done. Dude, this thing can take some heat though. Damn, that sounds gnarly. Now we're taking a quick step away from wiring as Brian wants to give me a ride in his all-wheel drive Honda. I have actually never been inside of an all-wheel drive Honda before, and yet I'm building a crazy fast one. So he's giving me a ride today. Our setups are pretty identical. I should make a little bit more power than he does, but this thing still makes 900 wheels, and it's like a 2,200 pound car. I've got to say, that is one of the craziest experiences I have ever felt in a car. It is ridiculously fast. This car will make a little bit more power than his. I cannot wait to show you guys this car on the street. All my buddies' reactions, racing this car, all that fun stuff. But we've been making some good progress on the engine bay harness. It's kind of a mess right now, but we have about half of it completed. This part is done. Right now, we're working on getting the injectors wired up. As you guys can see, we have 3 done. We have done it. Our engine harness is now finished. I really wanted to film more of this process, but truthfully, it is extraordinarily boring, very hard to make fun on the camera. But if we take a look, everything is now connected. Now, still, my favorite thing with this engine harness are these Maven mil-spec quick disconnects. It's gonna make pulling this harness on and off so easy. My very first engine harness I have ever built. This is crazy, dude. And there we go, 60 oddish some hours later, our engine harness is done. It looks absolutely amazing, especially from what this harness looked like before we started. We have it connected to our Nexus R5 VCU, but now we need to make our way onto building the chassis harness, which this is gonna be a whole hurdle in itself, but I think I'm gonna save that for the next video. The next update you guys are gonna get, we're gonna have this chassis harness figured out, the fuel system plumbed in, and starting the car in the next video. At least that is the plan, unless things just go horribly south. But I think that's where we're gonna wrap it up here. This video took me like 2 weeks to film, as that thing was not easy to build. But I just wanted to give a huge shout out to Brian over at Dark Matter Coatings. He came over and assisted me with this entire process building this, as I have had 0 experience. Now, neither of us are professionals, but he has a lot more wiring practice than I do, so he was able to come and we were able to knock this thing out. So in the next video, make sure you guys stay tuned, make sure you guys are subscribed, because my goal, the next video, we're gonna fire this thing up and hopefully everything goes to plan.